Hello everybody, welcome back to C&S Corvettes in beautiful sunny Sarasota, Florida. It's your Corvette buddy Lyle and the owner of C&S Corvettes, Steve. And today we're going to be talking about some of the, well, just a handful of some of the coolest stories we have from Steve's 52 years in business and my 25 plus years working here. And obviously there's a ton of stories to tell, but we just picked 4 that we're going to share with you today. And if this video does well and you guys are interested in it, we'll be more than happy to go ahead and make more of these videos featuring other stories in the future. So to start off with, I'm going to turn to Steve for him to tell us the story of the runaway car.
Okay, runaway car at Carlisle, Corvette Carlisle. This had to be 15 years ago, 12 years ago maybe. We were set up on J-Row, which unless you're a Carlisle guy, you don't know what that means, but J-Row is kind of the main drag. And if you're standing on J-Row, you look up a hill and there's a whole bunch of spaces at the top of the hill. Well, we were unloading. We had a lot of stuff out on the ground. The trailer was there. There were a lot of other people around. The guys that set up right across from us had their pop-up tents, you know, the 10 by 10 ones you buy like at Walmart. They had a couple of those set up. And up the hill farther was a trailer where a guy was unloading his car. He had the rear ramp open. He got in. He had all the straps loose except the front. Crawled ahead, took the strap off the front. The car was not in gear, not in park. The car launched down the hill. It's a pretty good sized hill. And came, if it wasn't so scary, it would have been funny. It came right through one of those 10 by 10 pop-up tents. Didn't touch the tent. It came through like it was a toll booth. Now this car is coming backwards down the hill, doing probably 15 miles an hour.
And this was a C5Z06.
C5Z06.
So you can picture it.
And comes across the J-Row and right over our stuff. Crashes into our trailer. Ran over C2 side exhausts, hardtop trim, some really delicate stuff. Crashed into us, and there we sat. First thing everybody thinks is, oh my God, did it bring somebody with it? Is there somebody stuck under the car? Which, thank God, there was not. And at the moment, like I said, it was really, really scary. But when it was all over, it was really pretty funny, especially since nobody was hurt. And it's one of those stories that you don't forget. And I guess it loses some in the translation. But when you're there and you've experienced it, it's a memory you'll never forget. That's mine. On to Lyle.
Okay, so along with Carlisle, back in 2007, we were, again, on J-Row. And at that point, we had what was called a toter home, almost like a NASCAR rig, a big semi with 16-foot living quarters. And we had a 48-foot Sooner stacker trailer. This was a 75-foot long rig. And we had it absolutely full of stuff. And at Carlisle, vendors oftentimes pay to have a professional tent erected ahead of time on their site. So you don't have to deal with trying to put up your own tent. And more importantly, the tent, if it's installed by the professionals, is insured by them, not by you. We had a 20 by 40 tent. Now this is all, staked into the ground, like big deal. And I guess it was Saturday. The weather started to turn at about noon and started to get breezy and dark. I'm like, oof, this doesn't look good. Well, at about 3:30 or 4 o'clock, what was either a microburst or a small tornado descended upon the show field. And it got windy enough and violent enough that Steve, myself, and our helpers all gathered into the 50-foot trailer that was parked back here behind the tent. And we were looking through the open door at the disaster that was occurring in front of us. And it was the most surreal thing because you had this wave of wind coming through and all these tents and chairs and everything going up in the air. And we watched one old man who was about 60 feet away trying to hold down his 10-foot by 10-foot pop-up tent, and it went up and he went up with it and he came down.
The old man was not me.
A different old man. And we're just sitting there like, oh, what's going to happen? How is this going to end? And then our 40-foot tent starts doing this. like going 15 feet up in the air on one end because it ripped all the stakes out. And we're thinking, oh, we are so destroyed here. We're going to lose thousands and thousands of dollars worth of merchandise. And as soon as it started, it ended almost immediately. And we exited the trailer and went out and looked to see how much damage there was. We didn't lose anything.
No, we didn't.
We didn't lose one item. We did not. One thing got broken. Not one thing. It was like a mini miracle. Others, however, weren't so lucky. 2007 was the 50th anniversary of the 1957 Corvette. And in honor of that, Carlisle had erected this big circus tent that had all of these beautifully fully restored 57 Corvettes in it. And when this thing blew through, that tent collapsed and crushed a lot of these cars. We aren't privy to how much damage dollar-wise was done, but I remember Steve and I walked around afterwards because the show kind of stopped for about an hour and a half. We all just walked around looking at the damage. And I know Carlisle was there writing checks to people whose cars had been grievously injured.
Or so goes the story.
So goes the story. But that was a one-of-one event. Of all the shows we've ever done, that was the craziest weather event I've ever seen. All right. So next story. This one's kind of fun, and this one happened at Daytona. And Steve tells this one the best, so I'm going to have him tell this one.
Again, long time ago, swap meet in Daytona, huge event. We were all set up and tables out and everything. And a guy who I guess kind of knew us from Daytona is relatively local to us. It's a couple hours away. And he came up and he said, hey, maybe you can help me with a problem I have with my car. He said, I just put a brand new motor in it and this and that and the other. And he said, the car was running fine when we pulled the other motor out of it. And he said, everything's back together. And I turned the key, nothing. And he says, I've checked the battery. I've checked the cables. I've checked connections. I've checked everything. And I said, well, did you check? I said, there's a wire that goes down to the starter. It's a, relatively speaking, big wire. It's probably a 12 gauge, 10 gauge, and it has a loop on the end of it, an eyelet. And the eyelet opening is the same size as the hot lead on the starter. And I said, it's a really common problem for people to hook that hot lead, that ground wire, up to where the hot belongs. That wire should go to the bell housing or the starter for ground. When that happens, certain items on the firewall, like the blower motor, the wiper motor, their housings get hot. They're a positive charge. And so if you take a test light and touch it, it lights the test light. And I said, that's a really common problem. I think that's what's wrong with your car. No, that couldn't be it. I checked everything. I know these cars. Well, he went back and forth 3 or 4 times, and he started to get a little bit perturbed at me, I guess. And he goes, well, I thought you guys knew these cars. And he turned around and stormed off. Okay, sorry, I was just trying to help.
Just to interrupt, this was like a C3, wasn't it?
Yes, it was C2 or C3.
Okay.
And we went about our merry way. The next day I look up, and here's this guy coming towards our space, and he's moving on a pretty good clip. He's very, shall we say, purposeful. And he's carrying something. He walks up to the table, and he takes a 12-pack of beer and plops it down on the table. And he looks at me, and he goes, I'm an asshole. Excuse me, sir? He said, I was so sure that I had checked everything and so sure that you were wrong. I really kind of wanted to punch you in the face. And he said, being who I am, here's a 12-pack of beer on me. I did checked everything you said, turned the key, and the car started. Happy ending. Like happy endings. That was a good one to remember.
Yeah, that was funny. Okay, to round out story time today, we oftentimes get phone calls of people who have Corvettes or Corvette parts to sell, which of course is part of what we do here. Is we love finding treasure troves of stuff. Sometimes we can afford them, sometimes we can't, sometimes there's stuff we can use, sometimes it's not. This one time, and this again was probably 10 or 15 years ago, a gentleman called us. He owned a storage place that has all these different storage garages and storage lockers. And he said, listen, I'm not a car guy, but this one guy didn't pay his bill for 6 months. We've never heard from him again. And we're cleaning out his storage locker. And there's a bunch of stuff in this storage locker, and it's all got these blue stripes on it that say GM. And it's all white stuff, which we think it's Corvette. And he described like half a dozen items that were like, ooh. And pretty soon we came to understand that this was all NOS, new old stock stuff for a 1988 35th anniversary car. Which was a white on white coupe, white wheels, white everything. It's a very, very standout car. And a lot of the badging and a lot of the trim on that car was specifically only for that car. So it's like, well, that has a value. And he named like 10 or 12 things. Like, yeah, I think one of them was a steering wheel that he had that was brand new, a couple of emblems. We're thinking, an armload of stuff. And he's like, look, I just want this stuff gone because I have somebody who wants to rent the space. Will you meet me? We had to go down to what? Fort
Myers.
It was Fort Myers
Beach.
So we drove down to Fort Myers Beach in Steve's pickup truck one night after work, met this guy at a restaurant, I think. And, we're just expecting to get an armload of stuff, pay him whatever he wants for it and go on. This guy pulls up in his own pickup truck, full-size pickup, big bed, with a tarp covering a mound of stuff in the back of this car. Back of this truck. And we're like, what's all this? He goes, well, this is all the stuff I told you about. And he takes the tarp off, and it is literally 5-6 dozen NOS boxes of specifically 1988 35th anniversary.
Boxes, not boxes. We're talking totes that are full of multiple parts. There was probably 200 or 300 pieces altogether.
Yeah, and all of it in GM boxes, all of it brand new, and all of it special. And I don't remember. Do you remember what he asked for that stuff? What he was?
I don't know. We kind of talked amongst ourselves and said, this is worth X thousands of dollars. And I don't remember the exact number. So we kind of pressed him and said, look, you need to put a price on it. I can't buy it and sell it too. He goes, well, could you give me $300 for everything? And I think that was the number.
Yeah, I think you're right.
And I almost broke my wrist reaching for my wallet. Of course, we bought it. And it's what we called the gift that keeps on giving. Because for probably a good solid year, of course, a bunch of it went quickly. But for a good solid year, a little here, a little there, and it wasn't cheap stuff, like some of the emblems brought $100 or $200 each. So we were rather proud of that find. He was happy. He got what he wanted. I didn't short him. I didn't say, oh, this stuff's worth nothing, because I don't do that. But he named his price, and when we kind of gasped is when he said, I don't care. I just want it gone. Yes, sir. So we kindly obliged, and we all had a good day.
And there's a bonus story. Steve doesn't know he's going to tell this one, but I know he knows it. Performance anxiety.
Thanks.
67 bolt-on wheels.
Oh, God.
This is a great story.
We live in Sarasota, Florida. A lot of people move here to retire, this, that, and the other. So we have a lot of older Corvette customers. And one day I get a phone call from a guy. He says, hey, listen, I've got some bolt-on Corvette wheels off of my 68. And I said, sir, they didn't have bolt-ons in the 68. And he goes, oh, I know. He said, they were on my 67. I get a new Corvette every year, and I liked them so much, I took them off and put them on my 68. And then as time went on, I really didn't want them on there anymore. And I just put them in the corner of the garage. And I'm tired of tripping over them. And it's got all the lug nuts, the hardware. It's got everything it needs.
Center caps.
They need center caps, everything. He goes, I want to sell it. And I said, these are original pieces. And he goes, oh, yeah, not repops. And he said, what are they worth? I said, well, I wish I could tell you they were worth about $400 and buy them from you, but I can't do that. I said, at the time, and it was short at the time, I said, well, they're probably worth, what, $2,000.
$2,000?
Yeah. They're probably worth $2,000 to $4,000. And he said, well, what do you want to pay for them? So, well, I want to pay $1,000 for them, but that's not what they're worth. He says, I'll be there in a little while. I'll bring them to you. He shows up, and they weren't NOS, but they could have been.
Yeah, they were pristine.
They were beautiful. And I said, what's the story to these? I'm thinking they're stolen or something, but why would you sell those for that kind of money? And he kind of chuckled. He said, well, the story is, you ever hear of Berger Chevrolet in Michigan, near Detroit? I said, yeah, they were the performance guys back in the days. He said, well, I'm Bill Berger. He said, and these were off of, as I told you, I got a new Corvette every year because my brother and I inherited that business from my dad. And so he said, he said, I've talked to other people about this, and they told me exactly what you said they were going to say. Oh, they're worth $500 or whatever. You're the only person that told me the truth. So I'm going to sell them to you. What do you want to pay? $1,000 is what I want to pay. He goes, take them. They're yours. Another gift that keeps on giving, but those lasted about, and we made a big markup, and I don't remember what we sold them for, but it was still a very fair price that we sold them at, of course.
Right.
And they lasted, we advertised them, and they lasted probably 2 hours, would you say?
Yeah.
And they were gone. And I felt really good about it, because not that I'm a saint, but it's so nice to be rewarded for telling somebody the truth. And just the way it is, and again, just like on the other parts, everybody leaves happy. So cool stuff does happen. That was fun.
Yeah, that was a great story. And that's one of the things that in my time here, obviously, when I started here, I knew nothing. All I knew was I loved Corvettes. I couldn't tell the difference between an AC compressor and an alternator. And he can tell you a story about that. But one of the things I love about the way Steve does business and the way we do business here is we've never lied to anybody. And we're very upfront about what things are worth, what we're willing to pay.
And we've been wrong about things.
Yeah. And it's
good at that.
But the ethos that we do here is we're upfront, we're earnest, we're honest. And I've loved over the last quarter century, loved seeing that more often than not does reward you. A lot of people think you've got to do things in business that maybe aren't the most savory things to do to get ahead. I don't believe that's true, and I believe that we are proof of that. And I don't think that is something that will ever change here, and I'm proud of that, and I know he is too. So that's it for story time today. If you enjoyed this, please don't forget to put a like on this video, and we'd love to hear your comments below. And if you have a Corvette story you want to share, put it in the comments below. And if this does well, and if you guys like it, we've got a whole lot more stories from a whole lot of years, so we're happy to share them. In the meantime, have a great day. We'll see you soon.
Thanks, guys.